Hi, everybody. Welcome to our web chat today, our University web chat, and we are just really thrilled to have some friends from Smartbox to talk to us about their devices. We had one other talk, right? Did we do one other one?
We've had
Oh,
two,
two. This
and
is our
both of
third.
them, yes,
This is our
and
third
both
in
of
the
them,
series, right? So
yes.
check those out if you haven't seen them because they talk a lot about the language system. And I think now you're talking more about the device, right? I got that straight. All right, so take it away.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to really watch how the series developed, sharing all of the components that are really relevant and at the forefront of the rec community's needs for AAC. So I am happy to join you all. My name is Michelle Ricconi. I am from Smartbox. The ink dried on everything last week, and marketing ignored my request for checking my PowerPoint. So you'll see Smartbox family, you'll see Talk to Me, but please know everything moving forward is under the name Smartbox. I've been with them for just about 18 months. I am a speech language pathologist who serves clients in the Chicagoland area. And I do have a co-presenter, Alicia, if you just want to say hi to everyone and reintroduce yourself since you first appeared.
Hi, I'm Alicia Alverson. I am a clinical education specialist at Smartbox, also a speech language therapist by background. And I will just kind of be here in the background. Michelle's going to do most of the talking today.
Thank you so much, Alicia. So yes, I am here to discuss Smartbox, how we work with our clients, work with our clinical partners, describing the devices, and just ways to get devices, interact with grid software, and we'll highlight eye gaze options today for you as well. And please unmute. Alicia, please watch the chat for me. You guys ask questions. I want to get your needs met as we discuss. So like I said, I'm Michelle. I'm your speech therapist and AAC consultant for Chicagoland. Just disclosures, I'm an employee of Smartbox, and I received some free equipment as a non-financial disclosure for this role. Just so you guys know and are aware, Smartbox acquired Talk to Me Technologies, Smartbox formerly known in the United States about 2 years ago. So our alignment and trajectory was very much in line with what Smartbox was doing in the UK. So finding ways to connect the software to the United States market was the ultimate goal. And after aligning with each other and Smartbox acquiring Talk to Me 2 years ago, we've arrived at just literally happened last week. We are now Smartbox. So we are officially the sales arm of the grid products in the United States. So for today, just to give us some grounding information, we will be discussing the Smartbox dedicated speech generating device options with an emphasis on the devices that support eye gaze. We'll look at feature matching criteria for camera options and eye tracker options, discussing specifically the Lumini, Vita, and Smartbox's own Evo eye tracker. And if it gets down to it, we can answer some questions about eye gaze troubleshooting. But then we can also discuss today how to initiate support for evaluation processes for the Smartbox devices and getting in contact with a consultant and how we can support that for you all. So we're going to be talking about high-tech devices today. So our devices can be purchased for straight purchase, whether I've worked with veterans associations, school districts, clinical locations and partners with speech therapists, BCBAs, a host and variety of professionals who support complex communicators. Within the Smartbox family, we do have two device families. The first family I'll highlight rather quickly is the WeGo family. It is iOS based. These devices, as you can see, I've highlighted here, are best supported with the direct access and head tracking options. Switch scanning is always hit or miss for some of the iOS devices. It depends on how savvy you are. But please know when we talk about the iOS-based devices for Smartbox, we are looking at more of the direct select options. We have Grid for iPad available on those devices, except for our little guy, WeGo 5. We are hopefully working on a Grid option for the WeGo 5, which is the iPhone 15. But you'll see we are an authorized licensed reseller of TouchChat, LampWords for Life, Protocol to Go on these iOS-based devices. But of course, Grid for iPad is what we love. Here, we're highlighting the Windows-based devices. It's a much more condensed profile than what it was even 6 months ago. So please know that our Windows-based devices only run Grid, and that's Grid 3, and they are best suited for our alternative access options. So we're talking about switch scanning, eye gaze, head tracking, and they are still compatible with direct access, but these are the devices that we will be speaking about today, specifically highlighting the GridPad 16 and the GridPad 13. But another more portable option for alternative access I've been using a lot with pediatric switch users has been the GridPad Go, which is a 10-inch Windows device that can support the head tracking and switch access for more of a portable option. This GridPad Go 10, though, does not support eye gaze. Again, reasons why you might need alternative access: diminished efficiency with touch, reduced or limited motor movements, increased fatigue, and weakness. So this seems like it fits in with some of the population with Rett that might be a reason why feature matching with eye gaze would be a way to move forward. We do have a variety of alternative access options. And again, please know our devices are suited for quite a few of them. And we'll move into speaking more about the eye gaze options next. So eye tracking technology, I'm sure for those of you who have been around have seen it evolve, change with a variety of cameras and trackers available on the market. It does allow our alternative access users to use their eyes for computer control, accessible applications, which if you joined us earlier in the series, you saw some of those components that can be worked into Grid and work seamlessly so that a user can be in their accessible apps, music, YouTube, and be in their language software as well. Used for communication at home, on the road, and you can even combine and utilize the eye gaze depending on the client's profile throughout the day. If fatigue sits in, can we use our eye gaze when we just no longer have access to using our hands? For those of you in the audience who are wondering what might be necessary to move into eye tracking, please know there are no prerequisites. We do want to look at each client individually to determine what might be limiting them and maybe allowing them to only demonstrate emerging communication skills. So identified hearing and or vision impairments, a system that was initially matched to someone that does not meet their communicator's capabilities, a system solely chosen upon a team's familiarity, low expectations from communication partners, and reduced number of opportunities due to wants and needs being anticipated, not having the opportunity to have an access method that allows for robust access to communication. So please know that using eye gaze is there for anyone and everyone to try. We just do have to do a bit of work to find the best fit and match in terms of some of the technology that's out there.
Yeah, I was just actually in a conversation today and going to bring up this point because it's cool now that we've been around eye tracking for so long that we can say this, but we were talking about an individual who eye tracking just didn't work very well for, probably about a decade ago, maybe 7 to 10 years ago. And part of the conversation was running through access challenges. And one of the things we brought up was like, we should try eye gaze again because the technology has changed so much over 10 years too. So kind of in that line of what might limit some of this is technology's changed too. So prior experiences may be different than experiences that you'll have today with products on the market as well.
Really great point. And that's, I mean, it's going to take me into why there are quite a few options that we offer. We'll highlight each one. Please feel free to ask any questions that might come up as I make my way through each camera, but that is exactly why we have a couple different options available, and hopefully something out there can be a fit and give someone an opportunity. So the devices that are compatible with eye gaze within the Smartbox line are going to be the GridPad 13 and the GridPad 16. The GridPad 13 does come in at about 7 pounds without the eye gaze bar. So what you're seeing on the screen is the speech generating device, the rectangular shape, plus the smaller rectangular shape at the bottom. Those are separate units because each camera could be fitted or trialed with each GridPad depending on the size of the device that was necessary for that communicator. The GridPad 16 comes in closer to 8 pounds. All of the devices are mountable. We usually work with Readapt as an example if that is something that the communicator needs, but I've worked with a variety of mobility and mount providers. So we just ask in a consultation that you provide that information so we can get the best fit. We'll highlight the Lumini camera, Via camera, and Smartbox's own Evo camera. And of course, just to reiterate, the eye gaze is one option, but it can be used in combination with another access option. So I'm gonna back up a bit. We're gonna start with some information on one of the cameras called the Lumini camera. It's made by Smart Eye. Some of the techie pieces for you all. Please ask questions. Some of the information may or may not be relevant to everyone, but I do feel like it's important to highlight some of the technical aspects. So if it's getting your, like the juices flowing about who and what might be a good fit, I wanted to provide some of that. So across the board, the eye gaze cameras are providing at least 8 hours of device use. So with the Lumini camera, it has options to track both eyes and isolate one eye for the user.
I have a question.
Yes.
So is the camera charge different than the device charge?
In terms of when you go to charge the unit, no, the camera doesn't have its own independent charging unit. The camera, I guess you could say the amount of power it takes to run the GridPad is what's going to make the GridPad's battery life in general vary.
Okay.
So you're charging the GridPad, but depending on the camera you're using, it could impact the length of time.
Because some of them pull more power than others. Okay.
That's correct. All right. But you would not need to charge the camera separately.
Okay.
In any of these instances.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. So with the Lumini camera, we can track both eyes, isolate one, left or right eye. There's also an option for anti-reflection mode for glasses, but I would not use this with anyone with a diagnosis of epilepsy. We can calibrate at 1, 2, 4, 5, and 9 targets. It has a strong light tolerance, so changing light situations, which I have seen in person, it truly does have a superior ability to withstand the fluctuations of lighting. And it does have an increased track box for increased physical freedom. I know this is important if there's a lot of head movements or a lot of just general movements to be able to catch the user's eye. But that would be how I would summarize the Lumini's. Yes, there's a question. Yes, Asma. And please say your name for me.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Asma.
Asma. Go ahead. Thank you for raising your hand.
I am Asma from Egypt. I have a Tobii device for my daughter Farida with Rett syndrome, but I don't know how to use it, and there is not support here. Can any help me?
Yes. Asma, do me a favor. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and go ahead and email me, and we can get you some support. I actually have a client in Egypt that I used to work with that I can get you guys connected as well, and we can give you some support via email. Would that work?
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Because this webinar would not be appropriate to that question.
All right. Okay. So let's see here. The next camera I want to highlight is the Vita camera. Formerly, if you're familiar, the Aaliyah camera. It has robust calibration options, so up to 16 calibration points. But I would say this camera does struggle in variable light. You have the ability to track both eyes, one eye, or ignore data from an eye, which could mean perhaps you have an eye that fatigues and the information, then we would want to be able to register the eye, but discount the movements of the eye. So this Vita camera gets really customizable in that it runs a IntelliGaze software and can also be integrated with the Grid 3 software. But in general, know that the Vita camera is really customizable and suited for a lot of unique eye situations. I think about a client I matched with nystagmus, who also had some neglect, and this Vita camera was the best option for him because the calibration points could be adjusted, and then we could adjust what eye was being tracked. All right. Any questions thus far about those two cameras?
No.
I would say, and then again, the battery life on the Vita is slightly better. According to what I have, it's closer to 10 hours, which is generally what the GridPad 13 and 16 run. So I would say that has a slightly better battery life. But when we were at ATIA, the Lumini was actually holding its own. Let me see here. So the next camera, we're going to highlight the Evo camera. This camera came out onto the market right around ASHA. So that was late November, early December, when the intelligent eye tracking camera, well, it's an eye tracker, came onto the market. It is going to use machine learning algorithms that have been trained on a variety of real world eyes and scenarios. So this is going to enable a lot of users to benefit from using this eye tracker. It's going to be fast and it's going to be accurate and really responsive. It is created in-house by Smartbox and exclusively used with the GridPad 13 and GridPad 16. The advantages of having this in-house camera is that any of the feedback that we're receiving and any of the information that we are gathering about the way the eye tracker is working really comes back to us so that we can make the improvements and take in that feedback firsthand.
What about its sensitivity to light?
I would say so far, knocking on wood, it is just as good as the Lumini, if not better. It's really adjustable and flexible. And so, yeah, I'll hop into some of those pieces. So the eye tracker is going to differ than the camera. So I am going to specify that the language we use around the Evo eye tracker is quite specific because what I'm understanding, and Alicia, you can jump in with any of this extra techie stuff. The eye tracker does all the processing on the unit itself. Instead of taking pictures of the eye like the Lumini and Vita and then transferring it onto the GridPad 13, the Evo has the bonus of being more efficient in that it does the processing on the Evo eye tracker, which again allows it to be more flexible, faster, and anything else you want to add, Alicia?
No, that's the big thing. I think, and maybe you're going to get into this, so just tell me to be quiet if this is coming. But one thing I hear a lot when we introduce a camera with machine learning is, does it have to be connected to Wi-Fi? And is it tracking my data? And the short answer to both of those is no. So it's not, because it has that processing chip in the camera. we have fed it all of the machine learning, and so that's part of the camera. So it's not sending information to any AI or into any machine learning platforms that users are using. As we do firmware updates and as we do kind of trials or like, I'm going to say research very loosely because it's the word that's coming to my mind, but as we do like informed research with different eyes and we update that machine learning, we do that through a firmware update. So it would need to be connected to the internet to receive the updates for the camera, but for daily use, it does not need to be connected to the internet.
That is a much more succinct and beautiful way of describing the answer to those two questions than what I would have offered. So that was a perfect handoff.
Wonderful.
Another thing to highlight about the Evo is that it has a 0-point calibration, which means with that information that was put onto the eye tracker in the development of the module of the eye tracker, it allows for those who don't tolerate long calibration times to be able to start plug and play, those who might be new to eye gaze to be able to start their journey with eye gaze without having to do all of the calibrations to make. We always want to get the best fit, but the 0-point calibration does allow us to move a little bit faster into the process when someone's trying eye gaze for the first time. This option has really served a variety of adult and pediatric clients, and specifically the pediatric clients I have been working with. I am not having to do as much troubleshooting as I have seen, specifically with, like I said, the Vita is very finicky. You have to kind of know what you're going for. And with the Lumini, there just did seem to be some needs in terms of movement, and the ability to adjust frames per second comes to mind as well for the Vita, for the Evo camera. When we're talking about adjusting frames per second, it allows for faster recovery times for, again, you're moving out of frame, coming back into the camera's track box so that that user can get back to communicating and not having to recalibrate. And those are just little settings when I talk about frames per second and any of the adjustments that you make with the camera, with the tracker. They are all made with in grid on the GridPad 13. We use it for a variety of clients like I just highlighted. And these are some of, again, the big takeaways. Powered by machine learning, it's on-device processing, and it's an in-house eye gaze team that has developed this Evo camera.
And that was the one, Alicia, we got to try this at ASHA, didn't we? Because you guys had just come out.
We had a couple models at ASHA, and then we did have several at ATA. Mm-hmm.
It was a nice camera.
Yeah,
I hope so. And Susan, yours is on the way.
Okay.
And that single point and that 0-point calibration has been really huge. And some clients that I've been working with where eye gaze has just been a challenge because they have either some eye conditions going on or just some things where they have a lot of variability in their day. I've seen the single and the 0-point calibration be really successful for functional use without needing to repeat the calibration often because of that machine learning piece. It is, even though it's not powering up to an AI system, it has a machine learning model on the device itself. So it's doing learning alongside of the person using the camera. So it's taking that calibration data, it's taking their use data, and the model within the camera is learning alongside of the person using the device, so it can build stronger predictions on where they're looking and kind of match that data much better than we've been able to do with our other cameras.
And that comes to mind when I was actually working with someone who, I didn't see this, but the team had described parts of the day where the client starts to shrink down in their chair, and when that would be very helpful for that camera to learn, right, this time of day, or this user just adjusted positioning, it would be able to better predict where the eyes were landing. So that was something that was very important to that team. We just touched on a little bit of positioning here and what's important when we are looking at eye gaze and being able to access. So one thing that we do offer is with our devices, mounting solutions to help support the user to make sure they have the best experience with their device and eye gaze camera or tracker. Lots of variety of options here. This is something that we work with even during the trial period to make sure that we do have as close to the ideal setup as possible for that team and that user. We can kind of talk about some considerations for eye tracking, specifically making sure that when you introduce the eye tracker or the eye gaze camera, we are looking at a clear view of the communicator's eyes and making sure they understand they're using their eyes to point. I have some tips here. We can go through these just I know in the respect for time here. We want to make sure we're choosing appropriate settings, low distractions, calm experiences, especially for newer eye gaze users. We want to make sure position is as best as it can be, but we can always use mounting solutions and adjustments to the device itself to make sure that we are making sure the user is comfortable and then fitting the device and set up to where the user is and how they are operating in their environment. We're going to position the equipment just like I stated, making sure the communicator is in their ideal position, and then working around using the device's mounting solutions to support the best optimal position. We're then going to go into make those adjustments to the device settings, whether that's dwell time or using the calibration options or looking at which eye should be used for helping the person point or navigate with their eyes are going to be the last part of our troubleshooting scenarios. And then we always want to begin simply. We'll get into some of the things that we offer on our devices that can help and support an eye gaze user who's starting on their journey. But we're going to use a few calibration targets. We're going to hopefully find the best precision for that user based on the tracker or camera that you're using. Let's keep the environmental distractions to a minimum, especially when we're starting out, and we can expect a short attention span when we're learning a skill like this. On the devices for Smartbox and within Grid, you'll see a lot of options for built-in games, visual scenes, cause and effect, and challenge options for the user to use, hopefully, before we start working on high demand activities. Spelling, language demands, academic tasks would come way after we feel comfortable using our eye gaze camera or eye gaze tracker. Lots of play-based learning is going to be emphasized in the early operation of the device. Look Lab is a wonderful option that comes complimentary on our GridPad devices. So this is going to be something that with other vendors, there's probably a subscription or a fee. With our devices, Look Lab is something that we offer a license for. So clinical partners, the families, the client have access to a variety of games and specialty created activities that would assist with starting the eye gaze journey.
So I'm just going to break in here and say that what we have found in the Rett world is that they don't need to play games before they do anything. In fact, we're kind of careful that they don't get too hooked on those and don't use language, because I don't want the kids thinking it's a glorified iPad, right? Maybe if there are kids with more cognitive issues, they need the more cause and effect. We just haven't found that with our population. We put them right away into like a 7x7 or your 50 grid right away. And don't really, and we might create some topic boards that kind of help them get started, because your 30 is too much navigation, right? But if you use the 50 and you add some topic boards for the younger kids, which I've done, I found that to be really successful. And so I just think it's not always necessary to do that. I would be careful there, because I think that our kids really like you know, you give an 18-month-old or a year-old a book, and so we make adapted books, and they're playing with the book like any kid would, which is more real than maybe playing a cause and effect game, you know. So anyways, just kind of understand that in the Rhett world that would be not probably as important.
Totally appreciate that. So within these play games, I'll go back to this this slide specifically then, because these games do have the built-in board that would be chat accessible. So while you're playing something potentially cause and effect, there is still a communication toggle that allows you to talk directly about the game or have that connection.
Okay.
So this might be something that comes to mind, maybe at the forefront, as opposed to some of those lab games. Thank you for that, Susan.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, let's practice. Like you said, let's set up the vocabulary sets right away, position and get calibrated, and have some enjoyable experiences connecting and using the device and eye gaze system to connect and communicate.
Yeah, my 4-year-old who's using grid pad with she has a grid. She's on grid 50, and her favorite thing is to say "come," and she already knows that the ones up top are going to change. She goes, "Come here now, come here now, come here now."
That's incredible. Get your needs
That's such an awesome example of
yes.
those useful next words. I
And
love
she
hearing
knows
those little
them.
anecdotes.
She
I
knows
love
them,
that.
and it's hysterical because she'll look at me and she goes, "I'm like, I know, I'm working on it, darling."
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. And just to summarize, you know, in my role and what we do to help connect people to our devices to support them, whether it's an insurance-funded process or a process where their school or their clinic is trying to get access to the device. Within the United States, we have nationwide consultants across the US, but for international clients, we have some partners as well. So it's always best to reach out directly, and we can always provide those resources if you are located outside of the United States. But within the States, you have access to a local consultant who can come out and do in-person support, collaborate, do some feature matching with you, and support with writing any type of insurance-funded reports that might be necessary. We offer our clinical partners, our clients and clinical partners loan options. So to fulfill certain insurance requirements, if you're in the United States, we offer complimentary loans to be given to the clients so that they can take it in and around their community. Then our evaluation center loans go out to our clinical partners. Like I said, Susan's has one on her, is being sent to her. So you can trial that with your clinician within the team that you're working with so that you can make a best match and best fit for the equipment that is available. We have a variety of language options to consider on our devices. Some are Talk to Me proprietary, but they are all within the Grid software on a Smartbox device. And the last thing I'll leave you all with is we have a phenomenal support team. So with our warranty, which is 5 years, our technical support, and any of our remote trainings that come with a device once it's in your possession, really can support the user starting out their journey strong. And then we have an extra level of support for our Grid users, which would include implementation sessions that would really pinpoint and identify the needs of that client so that Grid could be utilized to its fullest extent. So for as much as we know about Grid, there's always something more. There's always something coming out. So within those first 6 months of having a device, your clinical team has access to our Grid implementation team. It's run by 2 speech therapists who are wonderful and phenomenal resources, and they can walk the team through potentially a family at home needing a Grid for a bedtime routine. Someone at school needs to be able to integrate the use of the device in the academic center. And then someone in the clinical setting might just want to get some more options for routines and some of the grids that were shown to you all earlier in the presentations. So Grid implementation is a wonderful, wonderful resource that we offer once a device with Grid is in your hands. We have personalization options as well, where when the device comes in for a trial, that client can fill out a form that looks like this, and it allows for the team to have those customized options available so that the device doesn't need programming when it arrives. It hopefully arrives as personalized as possible with the ability to make some changes. But for a trial device, we really want to get it 80% there so that you guys really get an opportunity to try the device and not worry as much about programming. We talked about our warranty. We talked about getting connected with your local consultant. And again, we work with insurance, really solid claims rate here in the United States for getting insurance funded devices. We're really proud of that 97% clean claims rate. And we're always here. Please reach out if you have any questions, and if there's anything else I can support you with, or even if you want to get connected with your local consultant in the States. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys. And like we said at the beginning of the session, all of our Smartbox One web chats that we have done with them are going to be up on our website, RhettUniversity.org. I am sorry, it's been a very long day. So they're all up there in our
Thank
web
you.
chat section. And if you guys have any questions, or if there's anything that you guys would like to see us do, please go ahead and email me, Courtney at gp2c.org. We do once a month web chats about all sorts of different things. We've been very blessed. Thank you guys from Smartbox so much for joining us these past 3 months. It's been a lot of great information. And you know, now that you guys are in the United States, and kind of, I have one young lady who's trialing both the grid pads and also Toby's, and so it's great to see, you know, them having another option other than, you know, some of the other devices. We love Toby, but some of the other devices that
We
she
don't
was
love
on.
so much, so we're like happy when there's always a good alternative.
Right. These are the two that we've, you know, they're the good ones. So we really appreciate you guys very much. So
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for all of your insight. I enjoyed learning more every time.
And we learned something more. When you were talking about a lot of the sets you have, like the ones,
Yes.
the emotional support and the safety and those kinds of things that we are so busy sometimes we don't get to look at everything that's out there. And just having that summary was so helpful, because I already have downloaded some things. I have a high schooler that's just wanting a little face change on her device. She has CVI, so she's using the 36, and just how I can kind of spruce that up a bit, because she's certainly not in the market for changing, because she just finally has learned where everything is, and when you have CVI you don't want to really mess. So I was very appreciative of what you've done, so thank you very much.
yes.
Right. And
Awesome.
Courtney, I never introduced you, or I never introduced me either. For that matter, I'm Susan Norwell, co-founder of Rhett University. I just said, hi, let's get going. And Courtney is like my right-hand girl. And my left hand, for that matter.
I've heard the best. You guys we were at Disney a couple weeks ago, and Susan gets there, and she's like, I had this dream that I couldn't find my hotel. And I'm like, Susan, have you traveled since 2020 without me with you? Because
No.
you haven't had to worry about hotel getting anywhere. I take her everywhere. So
She
it's
just
like,
picks me up and takes me wherever I need to go. It's great. It's very helpful. But I still had my nightmare. Somehow I ended up in Iowa instead of Disney, and it was just crazy.
yeah.
Without my computer, I was just nuts. It was, and I didn't know where my hotel was, so we just drove around. The cab driver and I just drove around, like looking for it to appear or something. I don't know. Anyways, it was, yeah, that was.
she gets in the car when I pick her up at the airport. She's like, where's our hotel? What's the name of our hotel? I'm like,
Just in case,
Okay.
just in case we need to know. So anyways, all right, thank you so much. And I can't wait to get
thank
my
you, guys.
device. That'll be great.
Yep, send me your feedback. I'll be looking for it.
All righty, thank
All
you.
right.
All right.
thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.